Watch programs on your schedule with the KPBS Plus streaming service. See new episodes of Nature and Nova, latest news from PBS NewsHour and KPBS Evening Edition, local shows like Ken Kramer's About San Diego. Learn more at kpbs.org/KPBS Plus.
Hey there, San Diego. It's Andrew Bracken in for Jade Hindman. Today, a new book from an autism mom explores the importance of laughter. This is KPBS Midday Edition, connecting our communities through conversation. Parenting can be fulfilling, life-changing. It can also be challenging. Being a parent of a child with autism brings its own set of challenges, and some of those challenges don't end necessarily when their kids enter adulthood. Andrea Moriarty is a proud autism mom who's been writing about her experience. Her latest book reflects on the journey her and other autism moms have gone through, the challenges that have come with it, but also the laughter. The book is called Daffy, Laughter as Self-Care for Autism Moms with Very Little Time and No Interest in Exercise. Andrea, welcome to Midday Edition.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad you got through that subtitle.
Yeah, well, I just love, especially the ending. It always gets me. No interest in exercise. I can definitely relate to that. So this is your third book on this topic of autism and parenting. What made you want to focus on this idea of, laughter as self-care?
Mm-hmm. Well, it works for me. The books have taken a natural progression as my son has moved through school and post-college. He's 32 now. And when he moved into his own apartment, I was able to go away for the weekend for the first time with a couple of girlfriends. And they're also autism moms. And my college roommate, who turns out has a grandson on the spectrum. So the four of us the four of us got away for the weekend and just laughed our heads off. And I came back from that trip realizing how important that was and how valuable that was to have 72 hours of pure fun with none of the kind of the break from the hypervigilance and the constant mental energy that being an autism mom requires. And we had connection, camaraderie, and perspective. And I had an idea for a new book, which is what if this laughter, this ability to laugh and take in oxygen on this lifelong journey is really keeping us afloat. So that was...
Yeah. You mentioned your son, Reed. He's now in his 30s. Tell me more about him.
Yeah, Reed's a musician. He's a singer-songwriter. He's an actor in town. We've crafted a vocation for him through the arts that he's motivated to do and is talented at doing. He's in a local band called Jungle Poppins. They perform about once a month, a lot of times up in North County, although also Sisters Pizza and Hillcrest. And he's an entertainer. He's a performer. He's funny. He's a leader. And he also has some high needs, and he grew up having behavior as sort of his highest obstacle to overcome.
So, you have a series of books now kind of going through different stages of Reed's life and how it's impacted your life and just some, kind of advice and things like that. Tell us about, before we kind of get more into Daffy here, tell us more about the previous books and what you wanted to kind of accomplish with those.
Sure. Well, I've learned so much. I mean, it's been a vocation for me to become an informed autism mom. And so I guess my motivation is always to pass that on because there weren't the books I needed to read, I couldn't find. And the first one is called One Track Mind, 15 Ways to Maximize Your Child's Potential. It seems like I like long subtitles. But it is 15 principles that are transferable, and many of the examples are how we leaned into Reed's passion for music. When we used music, he was just 100% attentive. And it was the path of least resistance because it was innately pleasurable for him to learn things through music.
And you really dove into that as a family, it sounds like, too. Just really embraced that love, right?
Right. He's had music therapy since he was 5 years old. And he learned everything from the planets to potty training to math through music. And so that's the first book. The second book is Radical Inclusion, what I learned from my son with autism about risk, humility, and kindness. We need a word count. But that is sort of the story of what we did with Reed in lieu of leaving for college, how we crafted a podcast for him that became his continuing education. So he's interviewed the head writer of Sesame Street, Keb Mo, a lot of musicians, the Keith Lockhart, the director of the Boston Pops, people that, again, leaning into his special interests, people he found interesting and would sit and talk to. So it's the backstory of making that podcast. It's funny, and it also highlights model programs around the country that are making inclusion possible for adults with disabilities.
So in this book, Daffy, you share not only some of your own experiences, as an autism mom, but you also include the experience of others. Tell me more about that and what you took from hearing other stories, that went through a similar experience with you, right?
Right. So I came back from that getaway weekend with 3 other moms, and I had this concept for a book about laughter as self-care. And I literally laid awake at night thinking, how am I going to tell these more raw, brutally honest, sometimes traumatic memories that I have from Reed's, childhood and teen years, because those are tricky. And I thought, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can make it public. And then I had sort of an aha moment where I thought, instead of throwing myself and maybe him under the bus, what if I asked 10 friends to lay under the bus with me? And I asked 11 friends, and all but one said yes, that they would sit with me and confide these outrageous stories of things we've survived. And so we did one-on-one. I did one-on-one interviews with them. And these are women that I knew pretty well. We sit in waiting rooms together, and we've known each other. We know each other's kids pretty well. But I had not heard most of the stories they shared. And so the book goes through topically things like IEP meetings, sort of triggering memories for autism moms. IEPs, toilet training, respite workers, doctors who've done you wrong, and
Well, you
on
mentioned,
and on.
yeah. Talk to me more about the doctor, because you did say there was like a lot of shared experiences in those difficult memories that I think it sounds like a lot of folks may have been kind of holding on to themselves. But one really common experience was very positive experiences with doctors, and then a different experience. Can you talk about what your own memories from that is? Yeah.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, I didn't know this at the time, but autism moms can be pretty desperate for solutions or assistance. And so we tried a lot of alternative health things, and there was a secretin, there are phases of solutions, everything from swimming with dolphins to vitamin B. And so with that come a lot of varying kinds of doctors. And so one mom said to me, I think I buried all the doctor stories with the IEP stories. Oh, no, wait, here's one. I just thought of one. And so it is a real commonality to be to harbor these stories of people that are supposed to be helpful but maybe don't have answers themselves. And so it's a lot of guesswork. What's going to work for each individual son or daughter with autism? It's not always obvious, even to professionals.
Yeah, and you probably got to find the best fit. And you mentioned IEP plans a couple times, and that's more like navigating those school years. Those are education plans that you work with educators on that I imagine come with their own set of challenges, yeah.
Right. Well, individualized education plan means that any student with a deficit from their grade level peers has a document that itemizes those. And you sit around a table with professionals, and that's emotionally just devastating for moms to sit and hear the litany of ways that their child isn't meeting the standards, right?
Yeah.
And then wanting the best for them and seeing their potential, but having to communicate that to a speech therapist, an OT, a behavioralist, the principal of the school, and the general ed teachers is exhausting in itself, and sometimes a losing battle because it comes down to funds, and parents will do anything it takes for their kids, but the school district doesn't necessarily want to
Right.
approve all that spending.
So your book, deals with some of these very difficult moments that you and others share here. But I want to go back to that laughter piece. How do you make that connection to, dealing with these things that you said could be quite traumatic, but bringing laughter as kind of an essential ingredient
Right.
to your own, response to all that comes with it?
It gets easier with hindsight. There's something about, and I've struggled with this, trying to figure out the target market for the book. It's not for newly diagnosed families. There's something about turning, and I don't know if it's 45 or 50 or 60, but there's a certain point at which you're willing and able to look back with hindsight and say, oh my word, that was ridiculous. Can you believe X, Y, or Z happened? And for me, initially my husband and I would laugh about things, maybe my daughter too, and then and there's a confidence in this group of moms that we end up with a name called the Laughter Alliance. And my hope is that that women reading the book will form additional laughter alliances around the country. But there's a certain confidence of sharing with other autism moms that we're not laughing at anyone, but there's an underlying denominator of love in this. And the laughter is really a way to reframe the past and to move forward, because our kids continue to need us. It's really a lifelong, they're gonna need us forever. And so it's sustainable. It makes that lifetime journey sustainable. One friend of mine likens it to climbing a mountain, and we all have mountains to climb. So in some ways, the book's about overcoming adversity of a very specific kind. But we all have mountains to climb, and laughter is a choice, and it's the best way to take in oxygen, to keep climbing. And so I like that metaphor.
You mentioned, this Laughter Alliance, your own community with other, autism moms. But I want to talk a little bit about just like even the broader community. What do you think is the most hidden part of being an autism mom that you wish, people better understood?
Mm-hmm. Well, when the kids are young, it's a physical challenge, and then as they become teens, it's a mental challenge of navigating a myriad of details and a myriad of helpers that we have. And I think people don't see how fast we're pedaling underneath to keep their lives. Sometimes it's literally keeping them alive, but to keep their lives moving and structured. People with autism do best in a structured environment, and that means usually after a certain age, the school district is a structured environment, can be, but then after school, these guys aren't driving. Many of them don't have a diploma, don't go off to college, and so it remains the parents' responsibility to create that structure, especially after age 22 when they're in the community and they need something to do all day. So that's exhausting, and so I think people don't realize that.
Finally, we have a little under a minute here, but what have you learned from being Reed's mom over the course of these 3 decades now?
There's always a way. Just the hope that he continues to make progress at 32, no matter whether we're teaching him whatever thing about the world. But there's always a way.
I've been speaking with Andrea Moriarty. She's the author of Daffy, Laughter is Self-Care for Autism Moms with Very Little Time and No Interest in Exercise. She'll be appearing at Camino Books in Del Mar tomorrow, June 18th, starting at 6 p.m. We'll have a link to that in our show notes. Andrea, thanks so much for being here, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you, Andrew.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Jade Hindman. Thanks for tuning in to Midday Edition. Be sure to have a great day on purpose, everyone.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Walter Anderson Nursery, family-owned and operated since 1928, providing San Diego with gardening expertise and independent service for 4 generations. For more information, visit walteranderson.com.